Gun owners are forcing the anti-gunners to look at the real causes of violence in America. How many times have we seen Democrat politicians react in the same way after violence occurs in one of their cities? Typically, they'll ignore the human element and attack the Second Amendment. It's become crystal clear that Democrat mayors, governors, AGs, and judges will use violence and often perpetuate violence through early release, bail reform, and other dangerous policies to justify more gun restrictions. But we're also changing the course of action through our advocacy and, frankly, the lawsuits, many of which were brought by gun owners of America, that are coming down hard on these politically motivated gun-grabbing bureaucrats. Real Americans are forcing the anti-Constitution elected employees to start focusing on the real issues. Now, for years, we've been screaming it from the mountaintops that it's not the gun, it's the criminal. And sometimes we forget that a big part of the Democrat agenda includes disarming their political opposition. So we often look at their ignorance and unwillingness to prosecute their homegrown killers as a lack of awareness or inability to see violence from a rational perspective. But the truth is, they choose to ignore the real causes of violence for the purpose of engaging in their favorite pastime, gun grabbing. We look at violence in America through a lens of logic. We understand that when gun legislation is enacted, it does nothing to stop violent criminals, but it's very effective at disarming lawful American citizens and making them vulnerable to attacks, ultimately leading to more violence in society. We've become wise to the gun grabbers' game. Now they know that we know what they're really up to, and they're being forced to face the facts. So let's take a look at Baltimore, Maryland. The ineffective, violence-enabling, gun-grabbing mayor, Brandon Scott, has been forced to admit that maybe we should start focusing on the bad guys for a change. In a post on X of an interview Scott did with MSNBC, he made the announcement of a new comprehensive violence prevention plan. Of course, he blames the need for such a plan on so-called gun violence, but at least he is finally addressing the human violence element. Now, before you give him too much credit, let's be clear. He's likely only redirecting his focus from guns to bad guys because of the pressure he's been receiving from his constituents and Second Amendment defenders. Now, this is what Brandon had to say.
What we're doing is all and above, and my brother mayor, and always good to be with my brother mayor, we're all doing the same thing. What we know will work. None of us are saying that there's no role for policing, but having police officers go out and focus on every little single solitary thing and not be laser focused on the small group of people who are doing the violence is insane. And what we're doing through our group violence reduction strategy is we first go to that small group of people who we've identified through data and using academia to help us see exactly who those people are. They get a letter from me as the mayor. I know who you are. I know what you do. I want you to stay alive. The only way you're going to do that is to change your life. We will help you with housing. We will help you with education. We will relocate you.
It's a good start. Our voices are being heard, and the gun grabbers understand that we're millions strong and will no longer tolerate lies and rhetoric designed for the purpose of attacking our gun rights. We'll hold our politicians accountable. Now, the irony of Brandon Scott's new crime prevention actions, even after suing Polymer 80 and restricting the company from doing business in Maryland, is that the infamous lawsuit did nothing to change the already occurring slight downward trajectory of violence in the city. After all, cracking down on companies that sell homemade firearms kits does nothing to reduce violence. How could it, when these guns make up only a small fraction of the weapons actually used in crimes? Now, the Justice Department has reported that in a 6-year span, law enforcement recovered privately made firearms at 692 homicides or attempted homicide scenes. Put differently, that averages to roughly 115 killings each year involving homemade guns, a tiny fraction compared to America's 16,000 plus annual murders. By contrast, everyday household items are used far more often. Knives in about 1,500 cases, blunt instruments like hammers nearly 400 times, and even fists and feet in around 600 killings annually. Despite the evidence, Scott continues to tout the lawsuit as a success. In reality, the slight drop in crime was driven by increased police activity and was the natural decline following the chaos of the 2020 left-wing riots. The lawsuit had nothing to do with it. But it makes for good rhetoric with his anti-gun audience. Although the Baltimore Police Department used the same old tired gun violence rhetoric, even they were forced to admit that any decline in violence was attributed to hiring more officers, advancing consent decree compliance, and addressing quality of life concerns. Now, this consent decree compliance is typically a result of DOJ investigations and often includes policy changes, training programs, oversight mechanisms, data reporting, community engagement, monitoring, and measurable benchmarks. Of course, the gun-grabbing mayor would like to attribute the reduction in crime to gun restrictions, but Baltimore already had some of the strictest gun laws in the nation prior to the most violence the city had ever seen. Regardless of every possible gun law Baltimore Democrats could conjure up, the city remained one of the top 5 most violent cities in America. So, of course, the mayor would begin to look foolish if he were to continue ignoring the violent criminals he and his cohorts have been harboring. So don't let the mayor fool you. Violence in the city of Baltimore reached its pinnacle, and the city had run out of gun laws to implement. The mayor was forced to finally make a public effort to actually do something to protect the people he represents, or at least look like he was doing something. So a message to Mayor Scott: you're finally doing what you're told, and that's good. We encourage you to continue focusing on the bad guys, because when you ignore your violent criminals and attack our God-given rights, we the people will remind you who you work for. Thanks for watching Bullet Points. I'm Dan Wass for Gun Owners Foundation. You can find more Second Amendment content and updates at gunowners.com.